Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rock and Roll podcast. Check out this record. Journey says, "Don't stop believing," but I say, "Start believing." Your friends have poor taste in rock and roll, and this is a place where you can expand your knowledge on awesome bands that most people have never heard of. My name is the Natural Frank, and with me is the Lord of the Manor and the King of the Castle, Mark.
I'm just a king of fools on my best day.
You could find us on Spotify on everyone's best or worst day. You could find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcasts, and you could see these amazing chiseled jaw lines on YouTube.
But when? Great question. New episodes drop each and every Friday.
Absolutely. And if you're hearing us for the first time, welcome. We're going to review records and rip the shit out of the likes of Bon Jovi, U2, Eagles, even Journey. And we're going to have a blast doing so. Lots of smiles. And we have lots of musical discussions. But don't worry, we will never tell you what is best, of course, just our favorites. And we're going to do a spotlight series on bands, even look into some mysteries in the rock world.
Yeah, and you're definitely going to want to check out our verse series where Frank and I will duke it out on behalf of two bands or two albums for something that we call around here total stereo domination.
Nice. That was nice and like crystal clear, man.
Thank you. I really tried to throw the announcer voice on for that one.
What an announcer voice you have. Well, you're checking that out. Be sure to check us out on Instagram, our Facebook group. Hopefully these episodes will leave you wanting more of our musical goodness. And if you have a record that you want us to check out, that's not you too, drop us a comment wherever you find us. So this marks like the fourth episode. Mark, get it? This marks the fourth episode in a row where I refer to a band really from the 80s, making a firm case that there may be more like them undiscovered here, of course, by the masses. This band that we're going to talk about this week is Translator, which I heard about after seeing my friend Dan post about them on the old, whatever, one of those places.
Social medias.
Yeah, one of those. So I checked into them and was very impressed. Mark, this album we're about to talk about is from 82. That's not far removed. Great year you were born. That's not far removed, of course, from the birth of punk, new wave, college alternative, grunge was just upon us. Mark, I mean, say we're in a band during this time and, trying to, based on what I mentioned above, everything is so fascinating and like a band like this still wants to be the Beatles. Like what on earth would we do, would you say?
I'd like to think that we'd come up with some sort of sonic wormhole that like links all of those influences together the way Translator did. But honestly, we'd probably just drink a bunch of beer in the garage and sing a bunch of songs that only we knew the words to. Enough about us, though. Tell me about Translator.
Sure. So not a lot of information on them, but they were inspired by the Beatles, the Byrds, the 60s California folk bands. They were formed in LA in 1979. Singer-guitarist Steve Barton met Larry Decker on bass and Dave Sheff on drums. They were joined by second guitarist and singer Robert Darlington. They relocated to San Francisco, go Niners, where they signed to the indie label 415 Records, which received national distribution from Columbia Records. And we have their first record right here, Heartbeats and Triggers. So I'm ready to talk about this, Mark. Are you?
You know it, amigo.
All right. First track. Everywhere That I'm Not. We have the band's most well-known song kicking things off. The beginning almost has like a jazz feel that reminds me of Louis Prima's Just a Gigolo with that kind of walking bass line. Steve Barton does a great job here with word placement. He takes the word impossible and chunks it and pieces it out to really give us the emotion he's trying to convey. I also love the ending, how it gets rough and rowdy too. Mark, what a way to start off this record, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I love this song, and it works so great as the opener. You really get a great feel of how layered the album to come is going to be. And at the same time, the song just stands up all on its own really well. It's a great little pop number with a lot more going on under the surface. Great tune.
Absolutely. Track 2 is Necessary Spinning. This is a more energetic punk-esque tune with Barton giving us his kind of new wave vocal tone, A Tale of Longing for Youth, with a really cool breakdown in the middle, allowing the band to get loud and jam. It may feature a bit maybe of repetition, but I like the chaos that occurs in this song. Mark, did you do necessary spinning in the front yard as a kid?
Most of my necessary spinning was actually done in the backyard, Frank. But I'm with you. I love the simplicity of the song's repetitious nature, and how the tempo never really drops, even when the guitars drop out of the song for a minute, really conveying that sense of spinning out of control until you collapse. Just really cool song.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one I think is cool is track 3, which is Everything You See. We immediately see the difference between the two songwriters. Robert Darlington's first tune on this album gives us a very goth feel with such lyrics as You Were There with Eyes That Swallowed, Everything That Lives in Shadow. Just some of the depth that we see here. And then we get this Beatle-esque type chorus. Great dynamic thus far, and only 3 tracks in. Wouldn't you say, Mark?
Yeah, I would. I love how they change the mood as though we've just collapsed from spinning around and found ourselves suddenly kind of motionless on the grass and watching the sky as it takes its own life, of motion, certainly with that beautiful harmony. I love how rigid the drums are here, yet the guitars, bass, and vocals seem to just be kind of freely waving in the wind as though they were just hanging on a flagpole that was the drums. Really stunning track, really cool stuff.
Track 4 is When I Am With You, another Barton tune that I'm amazed wasn't a hit single back in the 80s. Such great vibe, great energy, capturing the energy of the punk new wave alt kind of movement. Nice open chords ringing out, and it makes you kind of want to pick up the old guitar and strum along. Mark, I know when I'm with you, you feel like smiling, but what did you think about this song?
The feeling's mutual. I feel like smiling when I'm with you too, which is what you said. This song brings a big smile right to me, brother. I really am getting that Jason and the Scorchers feel and energy that it seems to be an undertone of the 80s that folks seem to just not want to acknowledge. It's like
not at all.
Like all that faux wood paneling and wallpaper that was everywhere back then, but people want to pretend that like the only color patterns that existed were like the shades of neon from the Pizza Hut commemorative sunglasses, and it's a total falsehood of what the sound really was for the time. This feels much more true to what we're finding in this 80s alternative period. It's a little bit more kind of country rock and roll, free of the 80s country kind of cliche stuff that was going, certainly not the Rhinestone Cowboy side of it. With very much new wave teeth and some genuine kind of punk rock heart to it. It's cool as hell.
Yeah, you bring up a really good. Well, first of all, I had those Pizza Hut sunglasses. Just
me too.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. But yeah, it's like a time in the 80s for these bands that no one wants to then talk about at all. Maybe because the other stuff was just so big and so massive in the videos and just the way it was being shown in front of us. But really, really good part, or really good point you bring up, and to the countryness of this, not corny at all. It's
it's more sonic than it is conceptual, right? Than it is content wise, right? We're not doing that whole tornado took my trailer, my wife, and my dog kind of thing,
right?
It's more of just kind of that acoustic guitar paired with the loud rock guitar, the energy of it, and it works in that kind of upbeat folk meets country way, but again, without the cliche of it, which is really what sucks about country music.
This isn't Randy Travis or Barbara Mandrell or anything like that. So track 5, Nothing Is Saving Me. This haunting tune really gives the 4 members writing credits here. The bass sets the tone with some harmonics over that dark and gloomy buildup to Steve's background vocals and then Robert's lead. Then it really kicks you in the nuts. It turns you around and it pushes you in the back, and off the cliff you go, man. Could be one of my faves on the record. Mark, is this song saving you?
Oh, without a doubt. We get that mention of the album's title here, Heartbreaks and Triggers, kind of blended in with this big sonic landscape opening. Yeah, this is the last track of the A side, and they really build that rich sound up to pull the listener in before turning the record over. It's a really cool number, really allows them to jam and explore their sound and build on it without having to necessarily force a verse and a chorus in a way that they're not really doing traditional verse choruses anyways. So for them to just take this opportunity to let their instruments do the speaking and just use lyrics as haunting little overtones for it. Really cool number. Really, really cool.
Yeah, musically, you hear them gelling here, and let it be known that these members are the current members of Translator whenever they get together. Like, there's been no lineup changes. It's these 4 guys. So that's something to be said. And as you said, you're flipping the record over, as I did a couple of days ago, and I was listening to it, and we get this track, Sleeping Snakes. Hello. Man, Barton shows off his punky side here with this blaring number centered around what I would assume to be the Cold War and the eventual 83, because this is 82, the 83 Soviet nuclear false alarm incident. That's what I was piecing together. Again, I'd like to highlight Barton's use of word placement here with the chorus saying, stop this missile building, stop this missile building. Then it's a pause and it just continues. But the way he's doing it, again, it's almost like new sentences, but it's still seamless and it makes sense. It may be small, to some people, but to me, that goes a long way. Mark, are you digging this tune?
I really am. I love when a band can emotionally be vulnerable, both with the song of longing for another person and with their personal anxieties like that. Like we just heard in Nothing Is Saving Me, then turn around and do a very political number that balances the album without sacrificing songwriting for sound. Really cool song, really great energy. And at the same time, what a great way to start the B-side of this record.
Absolutely. And a number like this doesn't mean like, oh, here we go, we took like a political turn and now like all the songs are like that. It's actually not the case. And probably 99%
probably
of the
catalog, only political song on the album.
Right. Absolutely. And subsequent albums too, at least that I could point out. But man, what a great addition. And like you said, adding the balance, which is awesome. Track 7, Favorite Drug. We get this kind of funky intro with a groove bass line during the verses, showing that the band, Mark, is not a one-trick pony, and they really offer an eclectic mix of tunes that keep the listener engaged. Mark, your thoughts on this tunage?
We get that great kind of darker pop feel. I believe folks would call this dark wave.
There you go.
I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments. It's got that kind of great 80s danceability to it. While it honestly addresses kind of the dark side of party drugs and that growing prevalence in the community of, music in the early 80s and what we were seeing certainly in the alternatives scene, as it's kind of always been in the alternative, right? That's kind of where the drug use gets kind of, stickier, if you will. But I dig this track. I think it's really cool.
Absolutely. Track 8, Everywhere. So Darlington wrote this about the unfortunate shooting of the great legendary John Lennon. More darkness lyrically with This Blood Is My Silent Partner and You're Picking Cards All Jokers. With being such fans of the Beatles, well, not only us, but the band, that is, the chorus again rings out with the influence, and that middle 8 almost giving us like a Taxman vibe. I love this tune. Mark, what about you?
Yeah, definitely the big old Beatles vibe here for sure, and certainly you nailed it with that Taxman reference. Another track I'm surprised wasn't a huge hit. Maybe not one of my favorites on the album. I think it's probably one of my lesser favorites from the album, just because there's so much really cool stuff going on here. But it's undeniably catchy, and like I said, I'm really surprised this wasn't. I mean, this is a perfect radio song. This would have gone over well, but I'm again surprised it wasn't.
Yeah, again, another great point. Like, so for people maybe who haven't heard all the songs on the albums that they might like better, right? To the average listener at that time, I'm surprised that this song wasn't more in people's faces.
Yep.
Track 9, Dark Region. It's a dark and goth duet between Barton and Darlington. Shows that the new wave style is not just for the UK bands.
No, sir.
Us Americans could get down with it as well. I always catch additional details every time I re-listen to this song, Mark. And I imagine that your Dark Region is indeed a dark room with a lonely record player with only U2 and Bon Jovi records to choose from. And you have to pick one, right?
The answer is beat myself to death with the record player. I mean, I don't know what else. Yeah. I love the way they explore darkness here, right? The galloping drums and the way they describe their restless hands and the anxiety of leaving their safe space, right? Like, just a really cool track. Really, really great use of their sound and of the studio to really capture that kind of hopelessness. Really cool.
Yeah. Track 10, My Heart, Your Heart. It's not money, not revolution. It's my heart, it's your heart. Man, just another cool tune that you don't expect, or at least I didn't. What a great way to end this record and wrap it up, when you say, Mark.
Yeah, really, you just don't expect this kind of semi calypso rhythm coming in, almost like a dastardly villain entering a small western town, like to kill the sheriff or something.
Right.
That's what it sounds like. This rhythm sounds like to me. It's hard to describe, so if that's totally off base, like, my bad, whatever, I don't care. And then, like, so they kind of have that cool calypso dark feel, right? And it fades out on the lines, it's my heart, it's your heart, and the drums and bass just kind of play it out, and it's just really killer touch. There's something cool about ending the album this way.
Yeah.
It's personal, it's dark, but at the same time, it's still got this motion to it. Really, really cool song. I dig it.
Nice. Well, so let's talk about what happened to the band after this record. They released 83's No Time Like Now with a very catchy single, Unalone. In 85, we saw the self-titled record. In 86, we saw Evening of the Harvest. The band then broke up, right? Not a lot of information, but I imagine, just assuming, it could be similar to Thin White Rope, where they were making good records and maybe just couldn't catch on and it couldn't sustain itself. 2012, the band reunited and released Big Green Lawn. Mark, before your rating went, before that, I don't know what I'm saying, but Mark, why don't you give us your rating? And do you think, there you go, that's what I wanted to ask, Mark, do you think that this band was one of the precursors to alternative rock?
I mean, they certainly were a precursor to what you and I know as 90s alternative rock, right? They definitely happened before that. Whether they're a big influence on that 90s alternative rock, or more of that maybe later 80s, early 90s indie scene, I think maybe there's a little bit more of an argument there, maybe, but that's another scene that I don't know well enough to really say, like, oh, this is definitely a milestone for them.
Right.
As far as that kind of 90s alt sound, I definitely think it's a possibility. There's certainly a ton of great pop sensibility here, and that early alternative scene of the 90s, for as much shit as people want to give them, definitely had pop sensibility. So I think that there is an argument there. But as far as the album, Frank, or as I like to call you, my little Frank Slater, Heartbeats and Triggers is so much more than an amalgamation of the band's inspiration, right? Steve Barton and Bob Darlington both bring so much to the table between their individual singing styles and vocal tones. They managed to blend their individual sounds into a fresh and timeless sound that feels honestly relevant today.
Sure does.
Larry Decker and Dave Sheff pull the sound together by being able to elevate the songs with their impeccable timing and rich tone and sound. I absolutely adore the first half of this record, which is with Necessary Spinning and Nothing Is Saving Me being two of my favorite tracks on the album, hands down. I'm really surprised these guys never managed to make it to big and to really have a big hit, because clearly the potential was there. The third and fourth album, Frank, were actually produced by the guy who did all the early Ramones records, which is cool. Not the 80s stuff, not the
right
early 70s
that
stuff.
is really cool too.
But it's just a cool touch, and like it explains a little bit of why those records sound a certain way, and maybe why the label wasn't as interested in being behind them, pushing them a little bit more.
Very well,
because I think at that time frame, even though the Ramones were huge, people didn't give a shit, certainly in the record industry, that they still just didn't get it, even though it was taking over. But that said, this isn't about them. This is about Translator. triggers and heartbeats and triggers, 8.5 out of 10 for me.
Nice.
Check out this record. I already told you off air. I'll be picking this up as soon as I can find it.
Awesome, man. Yeah. So this is yet another band from the 80s that I'm starting to adore more and more every day. This album really doesn't have a bad tune on it and offers so much to the listener. Yes, the Beatles influence is there, but it's so much more that maybe the band didn't even know because they were kind of just starting to form at the end of the day. I love how you get Barton on one side, who I view as like the well-rounded singer, and then Darlington gives us this starkness and a more baritone vocal tone. I mean, they almost give themselves a Lennon-McCartney type aspect to it, right? There's something for everybody on this record. The all-around single of Everywhere That I'm Not, the jangle of When I Am With You, the anxiety build of Nothing Is Saving Me, the punk of Sleeping Snakes, the Lennon inspired Everywhere. Why were they not popular? Again, is beyond me. Was it distribution? Maybe of 415 Records? I don't know. I mean, MTV the year before was just starting airing videos, and I know that they needed videos to fill space of all the program that they had. So again, I don't know. Naturally, I'll just blame the record label at the end of the day.
That's fair.
Yeah. Translator is one of those hidden gems for me. I'm glad we were able to highlight them. This record to me gets 9 out of 10. I encourage everyone to check it out. So now the challenge as we're going through these episodes, Mark, is what do you have for me next week?
Yeah, so this was a tough one because I didn't know how I'd top it. So I got
harder.
over the idea of trying to find a better record than this. And I think you and I have actually been on a very hot streak. I want to return to a little bit of a hand
Zeppelin.
grenade that you've been tossing. I'm not going to do Zeppelin, but I do want to do our little Goldilocks series of overrated, underrated, or just right.
We're gonna get back to that.
And I'm not doing Led Zeppelin because I can't take it right now. I'm probably doing more harm to myself by doing this. I want to do, it's a band that I've always thought was interesting, yet never really gave enough of a shit about to really get into.
Okay.
So we're going to do Radiohead's 93 debut, Pablo Honey.
Wow.
It's the one with Creep on it. It's
Yep.
the only song I can say I genuinely know by the band. Otherwise, this entire album is it's 11 other question marks. I have no idea what else is on this record. I can make a bold assumption based on Creep, but I really don't think that that's gonna cover what it is I know about Radiohead and how well that's gonna get into it. And it is their first album. The Bends, which is the record label everyone recognizes, is their second album. I didn't want to start there. I wanted to start with Pablo Honey just to see where'd this thing get going and where did they take off? Because they're a cult phenomenon now, right? They have a rabid cult fan base. So is it worth it? Or
that's a good one too, and that's one like you I've never really taken the time, right? And people could blast us for that, but I mean it was a matter of time. My sister as a kid had the Benz CD, so I was aware of them, and then of course you hear OK Computer, but then of course the radio just played Creep as like their only tune, and to my knowledge I don't even think the band really even plays that because they want to disassociate themselves from it. So interesting pick. I'm really interested to hear how the starting is for this band, and let's see what our thoughts are, man.
It's what's gonna happen.
That's right. Sounds fun. Well, hey man, thanks for everyone for listening. Remember to like, subscribe, rate, review. Remember, be safe out there.
Yeah, can't wait to just chew your ear off next week, my friends.
Yeah.
Now, as loud as you can, whether you're in your car by yourself or a very crowded room. Oh, my. Oh, hell yes. Oh, bye-bye.
Nice, kid.
Yeah, it's very nice. Oh, it's so nice to put in a little show together for you. Oh.